Today I want to talk about colonies and colonization in Distant Worlds 2. Unsurprisingly, colonies are the most important asset your empire has in determining its success. Colonies house the population of your empire, and those populations drive your research and your economy, the cornerstones of any successful faction. Without good colonies, your economy will grind to a halt, your research will slow to a snail's pace, and your game will likely end in failure. All planets in Distant Worlds 2 have a quality stat which represents the various factors that make it desirable for the game's alien races to live and thrive in its environments. Quality is combined with the colonization stats of those races to determine if a particular planet suits a particular race. Each planet in the game is suitable for different factions based on its quality rating. Unless stated otherwise, the minimum suitability for a planet is 50. Suitability for a given faction is calculated by taking the planet's quality, subtracting the minimum quality, and then adding their faction bonus. If the race you choose has a different minimum quality for that planet type, simply use the number on your stat sheet instead of the 50% to calculate suitability. If your chosen faction's suitability for a given planet is less than 0, you cannot choose it for colonization. Planets with suitability from 0 to 19 are poor choices for colonization. Such planets have high support cost, which can make them difficult to manage. Planets above 20 will generally be successful, and in time add to your state's economy rather than being a drain on it. Since population determines both civilian economic growth and base research, the best colonies will be those which grow quickly and to a large size. Population on a planet determines its economic and research output. Population growth is affected by the innate stats of your species, the suitability of that planet for that particular species, and the planet's total amount of population. The planet's physical size, and to a lesser degree the suitability of the races living on it, determine the maximum population the world has. Though very high population does have a higher support cost, the extra population is usually worth it, assuming the world is properly developed. Individual planets have a quality range, which all planets of that type fall under. Some of these quality ranges are so low that you have no hope of colonizing them. All of the planets that have a higher suitability range are suitable to at least one of the factions. Not all planets are made equally, though. Continental worlds, which have a very high 60 to 90% quality rating, are useful to almost every race, including, at times, races like the Xenox, which have an innate suitability penalty for them. On the other hand, ice tundra worlds have a very low 30 to 60% quality rating. That means any race without at least a plus 10 suitability bonus for those worlds will have to research technology to make them useful at all. Because of the high level of variability between the various kinds of planets that will generate in the game, it is important, especially if your race has very few suitability options, to have population diversity. The easiest way to do this at the beginning of the game is to make good use of the independent colonies that spawn. Factions with few suitability options will oftentimes have to use technology in addition to population diversity in order to make more planets available to them at the beginning of the game. If you choose a faction whose planet types tend to have low quality rating, you will oftentimes find that most of the planets you discover are suitability between 10 and 19. This can be overcome by using the advanced terraforming technology for its terraforming device, and the first technology that aligns with the planet types that your faction makes use of. All of the planet types that have low quality range also have 3 planets in the technologies that you choose to improve them in the technology screen. This is extraordinarily important for the races that make most use of these technologies because they need to get the bonus on as many of their planet types as possible to make up for the fact most of their planets are low quality. These technologies can be a trap for other factions though, because the extra planet choice does not make up for the fact that without special bonuses to make these planets useful in the first place, they are generally not suitable for colonization. These planet types are ice planets, volcanic planets, and desert worlds. Two technologies are required to begin colonizing other worlds. These are expanded civilian ships and basic colonization. When you choose to research these technologies can be very important to how your early game plays out. How you customize your tech queue and the order you research techs in is a very important part of how you define your own playstyle and play. Having said that, I would recommend that getting those two technologies around the time that your exploration ships are reaching your first independent colony makes for a strong start to your colonization process. Of course, this is assuming that your economy can support the upkeep of a colony. If not, it may be better to wait. The other colonization techs are very good not just at making more planets accessible, but also improving the quality of the planets you've already settled on. Another thing to note is the terraforming techs in the colonization group don't change planet types like they do in many other games, but they actually improve permanently the quality of the planets you've already colonized. They do this, though, for a very high maintenance cost. The upside, though, is that once you reach the max terraforming level for that device, this higher quality means that your people will all have higher suitability on the planet, increasing both growth rate and max population. You can disassemble it and end the upkeep fee. So the last thing I'd like to cover is migration. The reason I put this here is because migration will not be available to your colonies until after you have researched basic transport systems and expanded civilian ships. Pops from any alien species inside your own empire or in any neighboring empires that you have migration treaties with can board a passenger ship and use it to permanently move to another colony through migration. The primary drivers of this are the size of the colony, so people on crowded colonies will move to smaller ones, the tax rate, which is especially strong in new colonies because they oftentimes have taxes as low as even 0, and the development of the colony. One of the side effects of this is that pops can move to planets with negative suitability if all the other factors are good for them. This is especially problematic with species like the Tekin, who have very high reproduction rates. Their reproduction rates mean that they can outbreed the race that you intend to live there, which has high suitability, and replace them, causing the planet to not perform as well as it would if they weren't living there. Problems like this can be solved with the migration controls. The migration controls allow you to decide which species are allowed to migrate to a planet and stay there, and which species will be forced to leave if they're living there already. The migration controls not only help to fix migration problems, but they can also be a solution to some of the difficulties that come from colonizing planets in the first place. Before we finish, I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about how the game handles automated colonies selected from the colonization list. Early in the game, this colonization list is a very efficient tool to use to colonize planets. It shows you the suitability, it can list them in multiple ways, and you can easily select from the screen which planets to colonize, and a nearby system will build the ship, fill it with people, and send it on its way. Ideally, in my opinion, colonization is such an important part of the game that it can help to select your colony planets deliberately and to make sure that your ships are built on places where you're getting the exact population you want. Another useful tip is to use migration controls to create colonization-specific worlds where you can build colony ships that only have each race on them individually. That way, you only have to manage the migration controls on a small number of worlds, and you can be relatively certain your planets have only the people on them that you want there. Thank you for watching. If you think that I've missed anything related to colonies and colonization, please leave a comment below and I will consider pinning it or amending the video. I plan to make this a short series of big topic tutorials for the game. Right now, my future topics are going to be research and economy, but the economy video may be split up into civilian and state economy, depending on how complex I decide to get into each of the two topics. If you found this video useful, I hope that you'll take the time to check those two out as well.